very powerful tool I learned in chemistry was to use units to help solve problems. And in this case, we're trying to figure out how many grams of baking soda we need to neutralize 48 milliliters of muriatic acid. This experiment, we utilized units in terms of grams. We had milliliters. Since neutrality occurs at the molarity scale, we're going to use moles. You can look up the definition of that. I'm also going to talk about solution, which is simply our muriatic acid, and we have a component of that solution being hydrochloric acid. The solution is muriatic acid, which is defined as 31.45% hydrochloric acid, and the remainder being an inert ingredient. We're going to just call that water. Molar mass is defined as a quantity per mass. This is a ratio. Ratios can be inverted. And so we could say per mass we have a certain quantity. Here's what I mean by using the units. Our goal is to figure out how many moles of hydrochloric acid there are in 480 milliliters. So we'll start with our ratio, grams HCl, moles HCl. Since we know that this is what we're trying to isolate, we have to start working to remove other things throughout the equation to isolate our moles. Grams of HCl, we could utilize a concentration, and we know what that is, to start isolating this one. 31.45, I can just throw that number in there, grams HCl, and that would be a concentration, so that's over 100. That ratio gives me 31.45%, but that's of the entire solution, not just HCl. And now I'm talking about a solution. How do I isolate that? Grams, I used a certain volume of solution. There's a relationship called density, that's grams per milliliter, so let's utilize that one. Again, there's a definition for that. It's 1.16 grams of muriatic acid fits into 1 milliliter. And so I have those two that balance each other. Now I'm looking at my milliliters, and I know I used a certain volume. So this is where using units comes in. So this one and this one, those two are 1 gram solution, milliliters of solution, leaves me with moles. So let me throw in the numbers and we'll do some math and see what our answer is. So 1 mole HCl is equivalent to 36.46 grams of HCl. We have our concentration, 31.45 grams HCl in 100 grams of solution. We have our density, 1.16 grams solution in a milliliter of solution. And then we have how much we used, 480 mils of solution. So we get this one and this one, we get this one, these all equal 1, this one and this one equals 1. We multiply it through, we get 4.81 moles of HCl. So our next step in the process is to take our moles of hydrochloric acid and figure out how many moles of baking soda we need to do that. So we have 4.81 moles hydrochloric acid. Our first step is to write a balanced equation using the baking soda and hydrochloric acid reaction. So we have NaHCO3, which is our baking soda. We add that to hydrochloric acid, and that produces sodium chloride, water, and carbon dioxide. and that is a gas at our temperature and pressure. Where we go from here is to say, well, what is the coefficients of our molecular components in our equation? And so we look at our coefficients in our equation, and this is simply 1. So it's 1 times and 1 times. What that tells us is that this is now a 1-to-1 ratio, and so it's going to use one of these molecules and one of these molecules to create a molecule of salt, water, and carbon dioxide. That's our 1-to-1 relationship. So 4.81 moles HCl is neutralized with 4.81 moles of baking soda. To use something that we can measure in our garage, we use our molar mass, and we can turn our moles into grams. And so again, we have molar mass defined as a ratio of a mass per quantity. Remember, that's an invertible ratio if we need it to be. And a definition of that, we have baking soda, which is 84.007 grams of soda, baking soda, per mole, 1 mole of baking soda. To isolate our grams, we use the number of moles we need to neutralize the number of moles for hydrochloric. So we just multiply that by 4.81 moles of our baking soda. Our moles of soda cancel out, our moles of soda cancel out. We multiply that through, and we get just about 403 grams of baking soda.